apparently we've had a little that the mic wasn't turned on, so you may not.
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an organizer and may now speak to any
Sorry about that.
other organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast.
And by the way, if you want us to redo this broadcast, please. Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Technical problems, and you all couldn't hear us. If you're still online and would like us to go through the presentation again, will you call 513-600-4961 and let us know if you want us to go through the presentation again. I'm really sorry. Apparently, we did not have audio. Please call 513-600-4961 so that we can go over these numbers with you, or with this presentation if you need us to do it again. Thank you. What do I do now? Stop it.
Did it record on this?
And I've got with me Joseph Fry, affectionately known as Joey. And we're going to talk about the ways in which a client of ours, a buyer, can improve his credit to be approved for financing. And just to give you a background, Joey has had his license in this business since 2009, has been involved in the industry for much longer. And Joey, just as another item, please note that this is the second time we are recording this because we had some audio trouble. So we will not be taking any questions. We are just going to go ahead and do this as a discussion. So Joey, just give a little bit about your background and then we'll start.
Okay. Yeah, I actually met the gentleman that owned the first licensed credit repair business back in 2002. Got involved in the industry with him in 2006. Ventured off on my own, obtained my own licensing in 2009 through the state of Ohio. So that's I've been around this industry and strictly in credit repair 100% full-time effort since 2009.
Nice. Now, one thing that we do want to clarify here, that a realtor, generally speaking, would not know much about the credit situations for a buyer because it's personal information that is not disclosed to them. So the idea behind this presentation is to help you figure out what are the things that impact credit, but also how maybe you can approach the subject about if a person is having credit issues, that they can get it fixed with by talking to their lender or being able to contact someone like Joe.
That needs to be on. How long has that been on?
No idea. You want to start again?
It open. No, I mean.
Let's start it again. It only
right.
takes a few minutes. I mean, this is Joey's chance to be in the
Well, let's
big
just.
show.
Good.
Good afternoon. This is Ashok with the Realtor Lender Committee at the board here. And with me is Joey Fry, Joseph Fry, but affectionately called Joey. He's from New Jersey, right?
I spent some time in New Jersey, originally
Okay.
from here, and now I'm back in
So,
Cincinnati.
Joey has been involved in the credit repair business for a while. He's had his license since about 2009. And Joey, just talk a little bit about your background and why you should be able to address this great audience.
Sure. I kind of got involved in the credit repair arena just by chance, really. I actually purchased the home of the first licensed credit repair company in the state of Ohio back in 1993. He was licensed. Befriended him, learned, from him about the business, and eventually started working with him in 05, 06 timeframe. Eventually decided to move out on my own, and in 2009 I went and obtained my own licensing through the state of Ohio. So it's a lot of years of experience. I've been involved with real estate since 2000, buying homes, and so I've always been intrigued with this industry, and credit's a big factor in the real estate.
Yeah, and Joey, one of the things that I guess we want to talk about is that which can get a little tricky for realtors is that they don't always have the opportunity to know directly how to address the issue about credit. So is there a diplomatic way of talking about it to the buyers, suggesting to them that maybe they talk to the loan officer about repairing?
Well, I think building that rapport and talking to them about it opens those doors up. Most people, this is something that they don't really want to talk about, but it's a necessary thing. And just let them know that, hey, if there are any credit situations out there, there are things that can be done to fix those. And there's you can heal. So don't make it sound like it's the end of the world. Just kind of confide in them and work with them to open up a little bit. And usually, the walls might be up initially, but once they understand you're truly there to help them, they'll open up. And I think it'll just segue into, getting them involved with the mortgage agent, and we'll discover anything there through that process. But hitting the credit early and understanding what's there and that accurate picture is important. You don't want to get to a closing table or get a contract in hand and then find out there's an issue, because things in credit can't happen overnight. It's stuff.
So this is something that a loan officer really, that's his job, to work on the credit side and figure out how to help them.
Right, but if they come to an agent first without having a mortgage officer they're working with, I'd really, really persuade them to, step one is get involved with the mortgage officer affiliate, so that we do take a look at the credit, because there's too many things out there that can happen, and it could just be minor things, but it cause a major problem. So you want to make sure you're looking at that from professional eyes to point out anything that could be an issue. Okay, what is credit repair? Let's talk about this real quick. The consumer has particular or specific rights as it pertains to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Credit repair is simply the process of challenging the accuracy. That process is outlined with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay, it is a timely process. It takes about 45 days to complete again, but it is something that it is our right. So we got to understand our consumer rights in order to exercise those. Okay, Ashok, the next page.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. The three main factors we want to focus on for true credit healing is, if there are inaccurate information, or there are accounts there that are negative, credit repair in the dispute process is a necessity. The ability to resolve any negative debt, if there is any, is another major factor. You can't get approved for major financing if you've got defaulted accounts with balances on them, judgments, tax liens, charged off accounts, collection accounts. So we've got to make sure that they're being proactive in resolving the negative debt situations, and then make sure that they have established credit. You want to have and maintain at least 3 open and active accounts. You want to diversify that portfolio as well. You want to have installment type of accounts and also revolving type of accounts. And ideally, at least a minimum of a year's worth of history. So past history, active accounts, all those are major factors that need to be evaluated. Quick adjustments that can be made to bring scores up. The biggest one and the quickest fix is something called debt utilization. Now, debt utilization is a big factor in credit scoring. It's a percentage of the balances towards the limits on your revolving types of accounts. Once you go over 50% utilization on a revolving type of an account, it starts minimizing the positive potential there. So ideally, a consumer's going to want to carry about 30% or less on any type of a revolving account to maximize that scoring potential. If somebody comes, let's say they're real close in credit scores, they're 615, 600, they're in that range, but they've got 3 credit cards and they're almost all maxed out. Quick payments on those credit cards to reduce those balances can adjust those scores dramatically. In some instances, it could be a 20 to 60 point adjustment that could happen in a matter of 30 to 45 days. If you make payments on revolving accounts, as soon as that information is updated at the credit bureau level, meaning the creditor has reported the new balance, that updates immediately, so you'll see a score adjustment. And then you could also do something a little quicker through your mortgage loan officer called rapid rescore. With documented proof from the creditor showing the accurate balance with a date on it, they can update with their data supplier, get a new reflection on the score, and move forward, usually in a matter of hours or days.
Yeah, this actually is a pretty almost magical the way this works. And we've had occasions where we've been able to save some deals because the client only needed like 20 points increased on a particular bureau. And what we did was we got the client to lower his payment. He sent his statement to us showing, updating the new balance on the account. And through what is known as a rapid rescore, we were able to get the score improved. And it was a matter of a day or two. So this part of it, this is the easiest adjustment when all that is needed to be done is lower the revolving balances. By the way, what is neat about this for the client is that they don't have to pay for it. The mortgage company has to bear the bill for getting this report done. And talk a little bit about those scenarios, the systems that you have for running scenarios on how to improve the credit score.
Well, there's a lot of simulators.
Yeah.
As a consumer, they can order all different types of credit reports. There's all types of monitoring sites, and most of them do have simulators. And you can plug in, okay, I want to pay down $1,000 on my revolving accounts, and it'll show you the projected score increase or decrease by doing certain things. So you can use that as a gauge, and they're fairly accurate.
So what that does is that when you're talking about rescoring or improving a client's credit, you can say, look, if you spend so much, if you put this much money down, chances are you'll have the right score, and then the client can decide whether they want to put that expense in or just not qualify for a loan at that point.
Okay, time frames for credit repair. Okay, time frames can vary dramatically from consumer to consumer, depending on certain variables, obviously. Typically what we see when we have a client that or a consumer that has, they just went through a period of time, they have some negative stuff on their credit, they're going through a process of healing, we would typically go through, 2 to 3 rounds of disputes. And each round takes about 45 days. So a time frame for a credit repair process condensed is 4 to 6 months. Now, if a consumer is struggling with debt, there's judgments, there's collections, and they have to work through the debt, their healing time frame is going to be based off of their financial ability to repay or resolve those debt situations. You will see positive results in the first 40 to 45 days. But the more positive information a consumer has in past history, the more open and active, good accounts they have going for them, the quicker you're going to see the healing process. Established credit. Again, you can't harp on this enough. Most people that get in situations where they're struggling with credit, they quit utilizing credit, and therefore they can't build credit and boost things back up. A client with established credit with good history can really heal fairly quickly. Typically, we like to see and we recommend that most consumers have at least 3 open and active accounts. We want those, again, to be diversified, have some installment accounts, have some revolving types of accounts. And consumers must make payments on time to keep the accounts current. One simple 30-day late can set you back significantly. It's the recency of that derogatory that has a major impact. Again, if it's just a 30-day late, you're going to heal fairly quickly. But if you're already struggling with negative credit and you've got a lot of bad stuff already there, a simple late payment can set you back significantly. So it's very important to stress that make sure you make all your ongoing payments on time.
Good point there.
The credit repair process. Let's talk about the process in detail. Number one, you got to obtain your credit reports. The annual credit report system allows a consumer to obtain one a year for free. It doesn't come with scores. There's numerous monitoring sites. Keep in mind the monitoring sites are not very accurate on scoring models. It's not what a credit bureau is going to use to calculate score. So those can be off significantly, but you're going to want to evaluate what's on your credit reports.
So you're saying Credit Karma is not the way to go. I mean, you can get, it is true. By the way, we found this many times where a client will think that their score is such and such, and then when we run it, and they are going off Credit Karma, and when we run it, it's different. And the way it was explained to me, Joey, is that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines for collecting the scores on the mortgage emphasize different aspects of the credit report differently. The weighting system is different. So it's not that Credit Karma is necessarily misleading them. It's just that they are figuring out the scores in a different manner.
Yeah, they're putting more emphasis on different different aspects of the credit. So, and that's with all of them. You know, none of them can be exactly correct. And there's so many different types of reports. You know, a mortgage lender is going to pull a different report than an auto dealer. The leasing agent's going to pull a different report than the other two. So they're all different scoring models as well. Okay, so when you're conducting and looking at your credit, you want to evaluate and look and make sure that all the information on your personal file is correct, your names. I see even social security numbers wrong, names wrong, addresses wrong. Make sure that that information is clean. You can ask for a personal data update to remove any negative information or wrong information there. And then again, getting back to your consumer rights, you have the ability to challenge the accuracy and validity of each item that's on your credit report. So we focus on the derogatory items as well, in all of those. And that forces the credit bureaus through a verification process outlined again by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay, so that process again takes about 45 days. You will get a corrected credit report. The consumer will get that directly from the credit bureaus based off of the results of their investigation. Now, let's talk about the investigation process. The credit bureau receives a dispute from a consumer. By law now they have to contact and notify the creditor in question.
So let us talk a little bit about what is the consumer disputing at that point.
Well, we as a consumer can dispute anything, whether it's a balance, whether it's a late date, and you see the information. I haven't seen a single credit report in my time that has been 100% accurate between the three credit bureaus. So if you've got one credit bureau reporting a late date in June, the other two reporting it in March, that's an inaccuracy. If you've got one credit bureau reporting a balance of $1,000, the other one at $500, that's an inaccuracy. Statuses are another big thing that seem to be wrong. One company might have an account as a charge-off. The other one might list it as 90-day late. So you want to identify the inaccuracies, and I can guarantee you they're there. You got to just look for them and know what you're looking at, but identify those. And then you have the ability to challenge that information. Challenging it with the credit bureaus directly forces them again into that complete investigation and audit, which is required by law. The credit bureaus have to do it. The credit bureaus will contact that creditor in question. Once that contact is made, that triggers a 30-day time clock now where that creditor must go into their archives or their files. They've got to research, document, and verify that information's accuracy, and then report that back to the credit bureaus. Any account that is misleading, obsolete, outdated, inaccurate, or cannot be 100% verified within those time frames by law must be deleted from your credit reports. So that is a method of speeding up the statute of limitations, getting information removed from the credit reports that could be negatively impacting your credit, which ultimately gives you the credit boost, assuming you have the other factors working in your favor as well. Analyzing the debt situation, again, I've seen this time and time again, even where clients have qualifying credit scores, they may have a situation with an auto repossession that's still reporting a balance or a collection account that's still open and unpaid. Those situations, regardless of a credit score, will be automatic reason for denial on major financing. So the debt situations have to be analyzed and resolved for true credit healing to exist. So we got to determine the financial ability of that consumer to resolve those. Now there are resolution methods that can reduce the amount of money that a consumer would have to pay to get out of those situations. There's debt settlement, and we'll point some of these out a little bit later. But, so identify that, find out their financial position so that we can resolve those situations and start that true credit healing process. Here's some of the different strategies for the debt resolution. Debt consolidation, that's one we try to avoid in most instances, and that's only with like open and active credit card situations, not third-party debt, but you can consolidate into one payment, but it'll note that on the credit reports, debt managed by third party, which is a very negative connotation. So we try to avoid that and have consumers do things on their own without a third party. Debt settlement, offering lesser than what's owed. Typically, debt buyers will take 30 to 60% settlements. So if you owe $1,000, you can offer them 300 and maybe get them to accept that or a reduced amount. Debt validation is it's another consumer right we have, different laws, Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, but forcing a third-party debt buyer to prove that they have the legal right to collect the debt from you, okay? And then ultimately, if it's an extreme situation, sometimes the best protection you have is bankruptcy, and you can heal from bankruptcy as well.
Yeah, so it is. It's like the old saying, time heals all wounds, and that applies to credit as much as it does to love and things like that, right?
Everything, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, there are certain time frames, even after bankruptcy. Typically, you can't finance a home for a minimum of 2 years, but in that 2-year time frame, you've now alleviated your debt obligation, so you can actually start healing and get things moving forward. So everything can be healed. It just depends on you try to figure out the best strategy for that particular client.
So Joey, one of the things that comes to mind is a lot of time people, this is just, if you have a habit of profiling, right? So if you've got a client who's got a $250,000 job and he's been at it for 4 or 5 years, your expectation is that he's not going to have credit problems. Is there anything like that?
Dude, those clients are out there. Absolutely, those consumers.
No. What I mean is there a rule that a credit profile is going to be necessarily better for a person who's well off and paid well? Credit has nothing to do with that, right? It has to do with their behavior.
Right. It's truly credit history, and a lot of people say that to me. Well, I make $500,000 a year, and income is not a variable in credit in determining credit scores, and in no way, shape, or form.
So when you're talking to people, do you think of yourself sometimes like you're talking to teenagers that have just behaved badly and you need to straighten them out as to how they're going to fix their credit? Is that the feeling you get sometimes when you're dealing with people?
I don't. And the reason I don't is I've gone through difficult situations, and I understand, obviously those people are out there, and it's mostly the ones, they'll admit it, I was young and dumb and in college and I lived on credit. They're always out there. We've all, done it or experienced it. But I understand too, situations that are out of your control. And now this stuff snowballs. I've been there, actually filed bankruptcy myself, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. It was part of, a learning process for me. But there's a lot of good, honest people that just had circumstances outside of their control, whether it be a divorce, whether it be, they got overwhelmed with medical
just a
bills,
loss of employment.
Loss of employment, which everybody knows. We've seen a lot of that. So, we look at each individual circumstance.
Or adjustable rate mortgages gone bad. Right. Now,
Right.
Joey, one last thing before we go. Why would a person hire you? Why couldn't they just do all this by themselves? It sounds like it's pretty straightforward and simple.
It is, and there's a lot of people that can do it on their own. The truth of the matter is, though, that most people don't understand their consumer rights, and if you don't understand your rights, there's no way to exercise them.
Yeah.
There's no way to benefit from your protections. And a professional, they do understand that. They know that. And it is an overwhelming process because you're dealing with 3 different agencies. You've got correspondences coming from all directions. You've got them from creditors. You've got them from agencies. And most people don't even know how to read these reports. So how can you decide what's wrong and what's right or what's impacting you negatively if you don't understand it yourself? So it's nothing that you should be ashamed of. This stuff isn't taught, and we just don't understand it because we don't deal with it on a daily basis like a professional would.
And I think another aspect of it is that you are dealing with an industry, and I'm talking about the credit card, that is not inclined to help you. They have to be forced into correcting things. They're very quick to make negative comments or put derogatory stuff in your credit report. But to fix it, they're not that cooperative. Is that my idea only, or what do you think?
Absolutely. There is no incentive for a credit reporting agency to want to improve a consumer's credit because they make more money off of consumers with bad credit than they do with consumers with good credit.
Because they can charge higher interest rates and penalties.
The people buying the information from the credit bureaus are typically all the credit card solicitations you see. They're targeting the consumer with lower credit scores. That's the information being purchased, and therefore they make a tremendous amount of revenue from that client. And there's no incentive, again. So you really have to work at it. The system is not set up to favor a consumer.
Having said all that, Joey, for a person who's advising realtors, let's say a realtor is working with a buyer, the buyer gets turned down because of credit, he shares it with the realtor. At that point, the realtor can say to them, look, if your only problem was credit, it is something that can be fixed. You may not be able to buy this house today, but if you do these things, in a matter of time, over a period of time, you will qualify to buy the same house that you're looking at right now because your income and other stuff works.
Right.
Is that pretty much
right
the message that you can give? Or what's your message here? Because we're about to
when I talk to people, I tell them that exactly. I say, look, this may not fit ideally in your desired time frames. However, if you do the things necessary, you will get there. No doubt. We can't predict the future or another instance coming up. But assuming everything's even keel, you're back on track, you can be a homeowner. Again, it might not be this month, but maybe 6 months. Yeah. Address it now because you don't want this to be an ongoing problem in the future.
Joey, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it.
You've been awesome.
Thank you.
This is our third attempt because we've been having some problems with our audios. If you ever have any questions, you can call either me or Joey directly. The phone numbers are available to you. Thank you for your time, and we're signing off.